The rain hammered against the penthouse windows like fists demanding entry, but inside, the silence was a blade, sharper than any storm. I stood there in the dim glow of the Manhattan skyline, my hand trembling over the divorce papers I'd just signed, the ink still wet like a fresh wound. Aiden's voice cracked through the air, raw and unforgiving. "Elijah, this was never real. Don't pretend it was anything more than a deal gone sour." I'd loved him from the first crooked smile he flashed during that awkward boardroom interview 3 years ago, back when he was just the hotshot CEO scouting talent for his startup. And I was the wide-eyed graphic designer fresh out of Pratt Institute. But love, in a city that chews up dreams and spits out contracts, doesn't always get the memo. Ours started as one, a marriage of convenience, sealed in a courthouse on a drizzly Tuesday in Brooklyn, all to keep his family's conservative donors from pulling funding after whispers of his lifestyle leaked to the tabloids. I said yes because my heart whispered finally, even as my head screamed fool. He said yes because it was expedient, a shield against the wolves circling his tech empire. Cold calculus, they called it in the venture capital circles. Marry the nice guy, play the part, secure the bag. We moved into this glass-walled fortress overlooking Central Park West a week later, our lives orbiting like distant planets. Him in endless meetings at the Flatiron District office, barking orders into Bluetooth earpieces. Me sketching logos in the sun-drenched studio he'd allocated on the 3rd floor, pretending the echo of his footsteps in the foyer didn't make my pulse stutter. Mornings were ritual, black coffee for him, no sugar, oat milk latte for me, with a dash of cinnamon he never noticed I added just to mimic the warmth I wished he'd feel. Evenings dissolved into solitude. He'd retreat to the home office, screens flickering like distant fires, while I'd curl up with a dog-eared copy of The Great Gatsby, tracing Daisy's illusions in the margins, wondering if I was chasing a green light that would forever recede. But there were cracks, tiny fissures where tenderness seeped in uninvited. The night after his biggest funding round, champagne bottles clinking like victory bells, he'd slumped onto the leather sectional, tie askew, and muttered, "You know, Elijah, you're the only one who doesn't look at me like I'm a goddamn unicorn." I laughed it off, handed him a glass, my fingers brushing his just long enough to memorize the callus on his thumb from endless swipes on that damn phone. He didn't pull away. That was something. Or the flu that floored him last winter, turning our sterile kitchen into a makeshift infirmary. Me brewing ginger tea from my grandma's recipe book, the one she'd smuggled from her little shop in Queens before the heart attack took her. He woke up fever dreaming, clutching my wrist like a lifeline, whispering names I didn't recognize, ghosts from his Texas upbringing, where football fields bred secrets and Sundays meant sermons on sin. "Stay," he rasped, and I did, all night, my back aching against the headboard, his head heavy on my shoulder. In the morning, he acted like it never happened, but the pillow on his side of the bed stayed fluffed, waiting. New York doesn't pause for heartaches. It accelerates, a blur of yellow cabs and steam vents hissing like impatient lovers. Our social calendar filled with galas at the Met, where donors in tuxedos eyed us like exotic specimens. Aiden's arm slung possessively around my waist, a performance polished to perfection. "Smile for the cameras, babe," he'd murmur, his breath warm against my ear, sending traitorous shivers down my spine. I'd oblige, flashing teeth that hid the ache of wanting more than the spotlight's glare. At home, the charade crumbled. Dinners from seamless deliveries eaten in front of separate laptops, conversations stilted as subway tracks. "How was your day?" Adventure, and he'd grunt, fine. Yours, fine. Always fine. But I'd linger in the doorway after, watching the way his brow furrowed over spreadsheets, the faint scar above his left eyebrow from a childhood bike crash he never talked about. I collected those fragments like subway tokens, hoarding them in the quiet chambers of my chest. It was during Fashion Week last spring that the first real storm brewed. Not the kind that soaks your soul, but the one that exposes the rot beneath. Aiden's ex, Marcus, slithered back into the picture, all sharp cheekbones and sharper wit, a venture capitalist who'd funded Aiden's first app back in Austin. They ran into each other at a rooftop party in Soho, or so Aiden claimed when he stumbled home at 3 a.m., reeking of gin and regret. I was up, pretending to work on a freelance gig for a queer nonprofit in the village, my tablet glowing like a false dawn. Just networking, he slurred, collapsing onto the couch without meeting my eyes. Networking. Right. Because nothing says professional like hickeys blooming like bruises on your collarbone. I swallowed the bile, fetched a glass of water, and sat beside him until his snores filled the room. Sleep evaded me. Instead, I wandered to the balcony, the city lights a constellation of broken promises. Why did it hurt so much when I'd signed up for the footnotes? Not the headline? Weeks blurred into a tense détente. Aiden threw himself into work, launching beta tests for his AI dating app. Ironic, given our own relational glitch. I catch him staring sometimes, across the breakfast bar or during those rare movie nights we'd force for appearance's sake. His gaze lingering a beat too long on the curve of my neck or the way my fingers drummed absently on the remote. What? I'd ask, heat rising unbidden. Nothing, he'd reply, turning away, but the air thickened, charged like the prelude to thunder. I started leaving notes, silly things, scribbled on post-its, your tie's crooked, fixed it for you tucked into his briefcase, or leftovers in the fridge, don't starve, genius on the microwave. He never mentioned them, but they vanished, and once, I found one crumpled in his jacket pocket, smoothed out like a talisman. The betrayal hit like a freight train during Pride Month. Of all times, a season meant for rainbows and reclamation, not reckoning. We'd marched together the year before, hand in hand down Fifth Avenue, the crowds roar a bomb on old wounds. This year, Aiden begged off, too much press. Elijah. Can't risk the optics. Optics. As if our vows weren't already a prop. I went alone, rainbow flag draped over my shoulders like armor, the bass of Charlie XCX thumping through my veins as I danced in the sea of bodies. My phone buzzed midway through, a photo from a mutual friend, time-stamped 2:17 p.m. Aiden, locked in an embrace with Marcus outside a West Village bar, their lips inches apart, the kiss inevitable in the frame's frozen moment. My stomach plummeted, the world tilting on its axis. I stumbled to a curb, retching into the gutter, the confetti underfoot mocking my naivety. Home by dusk, I packed a duffel, essentials only, sketchpad, grandma's book, a photo of us from that courthouse day, both grinning like idiots under the fluorescent buzz. He found me in the foyer, rain-slicked and wild-eyed. Elijah! Wait! But I shoved the phone into his hand, the image searing between us. His face crumpled, not in denial but defeat. It was a mistake. One drink led to. God, I'm sorry, sorry. The word hung, insufficient as a band-aid on a bullet wound. We argued until dawn, Voices echoing off marble floors. Accusations flying like shrapnel. You used me. I never asked you to fall. Until exhaustion claimed us, slumped against opposite walls. The divorce papers materializing on the coffee table like an accusation. He signed first, pen slashing like a guillotine. Then me, the loop of my E wobbling like a sob. As the storm raged on, I grabbed my coat, the door a threshold to oblivion. But his hand caught my wrist, gentle, desperate. Don't go. Not like this. Thunder cracked, illuminating the plea in his eyes, the first real vulnerability since that flu-ridden night. I paused, heart fracturing anew. Was this the end, or the hook I'd been waiting for all along? The weeks that followed were a limbo of least time, our penthouse a mausoleum of half-packed boxes and unspoken elegies. Aiden threw himself into salvaging the app's launch, holing up in conference rooms downtown while I crashed at my sister's cramped walk-up in Astoria. Her pull-out couch a far cry from Egyptian cotton but closer to the earth's honest grit. You deserve better than playing house for a man who can't see what's in front of him, she'd say over greasy diner eggs, her queen's accent thick with sisterly fire. She was right. Of course, Lila, with her tattoo parlor buzzing on Steinway Street and a parade of girlfriends rotating through like seasons. But logic bowed to longing. I found myself texting him updates on nothing. Saw a busker playing Wonderwall in the subway. Made me think of that road trip we never took. He'd reply hours later. Tell him to learn the bridge right. Crumbs. But I devoured them. Back in the city for a client meeting mid-July. The heat wave turned sidewalks into griddles. Mirages dancing at crosswalks. I swung by the office unannounced. A peace offering of cold brew from devotion. The Colombian spot he swore by. The receptionist waved me up, her smile pitying. Aiden's corner office overlooked the Empire State. All chrome and ambition. But he wasn't there. His assistant mumbled something about an off-site with investors. Off-site. My gut twisted. Visions of Marcus's smirk flashing like warning lights. I left the drinks on his desk. A sticky note fluttering. Fuel for the fire. Don't burn out. Fleeing down the elevator, I collided with the man himself in the lobby. Aiden, disheveled in a linen shirt. Marcus trailing like a shadow, their laughter dying on contact. Elijah. Aiden's voice was a wire, taut and fraying. Marcus extended a hand. All false charm. Heard about the split. Tough break. Man. I ignored it. Eyes locked on Aiden's. Searching for the boy who'd once confessed. Over late-night tacos in Bushwick. His fear of being the family disappointment. Found nothing but polished evasion. Just dropping off caffeine, I said, voice steady as a lie. Catch you later. Later never came. That night, Lila dragged me to a drag brunch in Hell's Kitchen, where queens in sequins belted show tunes and mimosas flowed like absolution. I laughed. Really laughed. For the first time in months, the drag mother's pearl-clutching rendition of Defying Gravity, lifting something lodged in my ribs. But midnight brought the buzz. Aiden. 3 missed calls. A voicemail thick with static and strain. I saw the note. Elijah. We need to talk. Please. We met at our old haunt. The hole-in-the-wall falafel joint on Bleecker Street, where the air smelled of cumin and possibility. He arrived late, hair windswept from the cab ride, carrying a dog-eared journal mine, the one I'd left behind, pages filled with sketches of him. Profile in repose, hands steepled in thought, a half-finished portrait capturing the dimple that appeared only when he was unguarded. You drew these? he asked, flipping through like contraband. Heat flooded my face. I'd meant to reclaim it, not have it waved like evidence. Yeah. Habits die hard. We ordered platters, picking at chickpeas under the hum of fluorescent tubes. The conversation a minefield. He admitted the slip with Marcus was panic. A donor had cornered him about commitment issues, and old patterns beckoned like sirens. I pushed you away because it's easier to run than risk the fall. Vulnerability cracked his voice, a fissure I longed to mend. I leaned in, the table's edge biting my palms. And what if the fall's worth it? Aiden, what if I've been catching you all along? Silence stretched, broken only by the sizzle of the grill. He reached across, thumb tracing my knuckles, a touch electric, innocent as dawn. I don't deserve that, but his eyes said otherwise, stormy with the weight of realization. We walked home through Washington Square Park, fireflies of tourists swirling around the arch, his shoulder brushing mine in the crowd. At the stoop, he hesitated. Stay tonight? No strings, just company. I did. The guest room a chaste exile, but sleep brought dreams of what-ifs, his silhouette haunting the doorway like a ghost seeking form. August brought a fragile thaw, our interactions a tentative waltz, joint grocery runs to Whole Foods on Columbus Circle, where he'd toss avocados into the cart with boyish flair, or sunset jogs along the Hudson, breath sinking in the salt-laced air. He started noticing the cinnamon in my latte, the way I hummed Springsteen under my breath while folding laundry. You know, Jersey Girl suits you, he'd tease, referencing the boss's anthem, and I'd shove him playfully, laughter bubbling like forgotten springs. But shadows lingered. Marcus's texts pinged Aiden's phone during dinners, deleted with a grimace but not before I glimpsed the barbs. Missed the real thing yet? Aiden swore it was over, blocked the number, but trust is a fragile vase. Once shattered, pieced with trembling hands. The real fracture came at Labor Day weekend. A forced retreat to the Hamptons, his idea. To reset, rented beach house all shiplap and sea glass, waves crashing like applause. We drove out in his Tesla, windows down, playlist shuffling from Fleetwood Mac to Frank Ocean, the lyrics weaving through us like incantations. Days blurred into idle. Mornings surfing off Montauk, salt stinging our skin. Afternoons reading on the deck, my head in his lap as he scrolled emails, fingers absently threading my hair. Evenings around the fire pit, marshmallows toasting to golden, stories spilling, Aiden's first crush on the quarterback in high school, buried under Bible study, my coming out tale in a Pratt dorm, paint splattered and defiant. You were brave, he said, voice hushed by the surf. I'm still catching up, but paradise has teeth. On the second night, a storm rolled in from the Atlantic, lightning forking the sky like veins. Power flickered out, plunging us into candlelit intimacy. We played cards by glow, Rummy turning flirtatious with each lost hand. Then his phone lit up. Marcus, unblocked somehow, a video call insistent as a summons. Aiden declined twice, but the third time, curiosity or masochism won, he answered, screen angled away, but audio betrayed. Laughter, low and intimate, Marcus's drawl coiling like smoke. Thought you'd ghost me forever. Cowboy. Aiden's face hardened, but he didn't hang up, not immediately. I froze, deck scattering like leaves. Tell him goodbye, Aiden. For real this time, he did. Voice steel, we're done. Don't call again. Click. But the damage bloomed. A bruise on our budding bloom. We argued on the porch. Rain lashing like judgment. My voice breaking. How many chances? Aiden, I'm not your safety net. He pulled me close, soaked and shaking. You're more. God. Elijah. You're everything I didn't know to want. The kiss that followed was inevitable, soft as sea foam, tasting of salt and surrender. No fire, just embers, lips brushing, hands framing faces, a promise whispered in the downpour. We retreated inside, towels and tea, curling on the couch like survivors. Dawn broke clear, but the seed of doubt had taken root. Back in the city, the app launched to fanfare. Billboards in Times Square, influencers swiping right on virtual dates. Aiden shone in keynotes, charisma crackling, but offstage, he'd seek me out. Notes now reciprocal, your laugh in that meeting? Killer. Dinner on me. We rebuilt brick by brick. Therapy sessions in a cozy Chelsea office where a soft-spoken shrink unpacked our baggage. His fear of abandonment, rooted in a father's belt and a mother's silence. My pattern of quiet endurance, learned from watching grandma weather widowhood with grace. Love isn't a contract, the therapist said, glasses glinting. It's a choice, renewed daily. Aiden nodded, squeezing my hand under the table. Fall foliage painted Central Park in fire, our walks crunching leaves like confessions. One crisp October evening, under the Bethesda fountain, he dropped to one knee, not with a ring, but a key to a tiny studio in the West Village. Walls blank for my art, no lease in his name. Your space, he said, eyes earnest. Ours, if you want. Tears pricked. I pulled him up, foreheads touching. Always have. That night, back home, we cooked real food. Paella from a recipe I'd bookmarked, saffron staining our fingers gold. As we ate, candlelight dancing, he traced the lines of my palm. I see it now, Elijah. All those quiet years. You were the heartbeat I ignored, but hearts, like cities, hide fault lines. Whispers from the boardroom reached me. Marcus, poaching clients, sowing seeds of scandal. A leaked email chain surfaced. Aiden's name tangled in flattery and favors. Paranoia crept, but I shoved it down. Trust, fragile as autumn, demanded tending. November's chill seeped into the bones of the city. Frost etching patterns on brownstone windows like lace veils over secrets. Our renewed rhythm held, a fragile harmony. Mornings tangled in sheets. His alarm a gentle nudge before the commute. Evenings with takeout from ZN Famous Foods. Spicy noodles bridging the gap between bites and banter. Aiden's app surged in downloads. User stories flooding forums. Couples matched across boroughs. Queer kids finding mirrors in algorithms he'd coded with quiet care. It's not just swipes, he'd say, pride softening his edges. It's connections. I'd nod, sketching him at his desk. The glow of success humanizing the mogul. Yet, the betrayal's echo lingered, a low hum beneath the idol. Marcus's shadow lengthened. Anonymous tips to tech blogs hinted at insider trading. Aiden's name dragged through digital mud. He brushed it off as sour grapes, but stress etched new lines around his eyes, sleep evading him in fits. I'd wake to find him pacing the living room, city lights casting him as a sentinel. Talk to me, I'd murmur, pulling him back to bed, my arms a harbor. He'd exhale, confessions tumbling, the pressure of legacy. His father's ghost demanding perfection from a Dallas oil dynasty he'd fled for Silicon dreams. "I built this to prove I'm enough," he'd whisper, head on my chest. "But without you, it's hollow." Those nights bound us tighter, vulnerability the mortar to our bricks. Thanksgiving loomed, a minefield of tradition. Lila hosted, her apartment a riot of fairy lights and queer kin. Her latest flame, a poet with sleeve tattoos, our cousin Theo, fresh from a tour with his indie band. Aiden hesitated, Texas-raised reservations clashing with my insistence. "Families chosen. Remember," he came, bearing pies from a Harlem bakery, his awkward charm winning laughs as he mangled the mac and cheese recipe. Around the table, hands linked in a makeshift grace, Lila raised her glass. To messy loves and second acts. Aiden's gaze met mine, warm as cider, and under the cloth, his foot nudged mine, a silent vow. But holidays unearth bones. Post-feast, buzzed on spiked eggnog, Theo cornered me in the kitchen. "Heard from a source. Marcus is gunning for him." "Bad." My stomach nodded. Theo's band gigged at industry spots, ears to the ground. "What kind?" He shrugged. Cryptic. "Dig if you care." I did. That night, laptop glowing in the dim Astoria guest room while Aiden snored beside me. Forums buzzed. Leaked chats. Aiden's flirty emojis to Marcus pre-marriage. Twisted into ongoing affair. Heart sinking. I scrolled deeper, an email forward. Timestamped last month. Aiden greenlighting a deal that smelled of conflict. Marcus's firm the beneficiary. Coincidence? Or compromise? Confrontation brewed slow, simmering through December's frenzy. We strung lights on the balcony. Bing Crosby crooning from the speakers, but tension crackled like static. "Anything on your mind?" he'd ask, handing me a mug of spiked hot chocolate. I'd force a smile. Just the holidays. New Year's Eve approached. A gala at the Waldorf beckoning, black tie. Alisters. Our first public outing since the divorce. I tailored a suit. Midnight blue to match his eyes, hoping armor could mend fractures. The night glittered. Chandeliers dripping light. Champagne flutes clinking like toasts to tomorrow. Aiden shone, schmoozing senators and startups, his hand possessive on my lower back. But across the ballroom, Marcus lounged against a pillar, gaze predatory, a smirk like a stiletto. He approached during a slow dance, our bodies swaying to Ella Fitzgerald, Aiden's chin on my shoulder. "Mind if I cut in?" Marcus's voice slithered, uninvited. Aiden stiffened. "Not tonight." But Marcus lingered, whispering something that drained color from Aiden's face. Words lost in the swell of strings, but impact visceral. Later, in the coat check, I pressed, "What did he say?" Aiden's jaw clenched. "Nothing worth repeating. Lies have weight." This one bowed his shoulders. Midnight struck, confetti raining as the ball dropped on screens, cheers erupting. We kissed amid the chaos, tender, public, a declaration. But joy soured in the cab home, my phone pinging, an article from TechCrunch, Aiden Hale's empire, affairs and ethics in question, screenshots galore, those old chats, the shady deal, my name footnote in a sham marriage narrative. Aiden snatched the phone, scrolling in horror. "This is bullshit, Marcus." That snake. Rage boiled, but beneath, guilt flickered. "Did you greenlight that investment knowing?" My voice cracked, small in the leather seat. He deflated. "It was one favor." to bury the hatchet. I thought it'd end things clean. Clean. The word mocked as we ascended to the penthouse. Argument exploding like fireworks gone wrong. You traded us for peace? I shouted, pacing the foyer, coat discarded like shed skin. After everything, my notes, my nights, my heart. You let him in again. Aiden's eyes blazed. Defensive. I was protecting what we have. The app. The life. It's all teetering. Protecting. From whom? The mirror reflected a stranger. Me. Unraveling. Him. Cornered. You don't get it. Elijah. I grew up scraping for every win. Compromise isn't betrayal. It's survival. Survival. I'd survived loving him in silence. This felt like drowning. He reached for me. Plea raw. I love you. God. I do now. Finally. The words I'd craved. Delivered in wreckage. I recoiled. Love doesn't leak poison. Storming to the studio. I slammed the door. Easel toppling. Paint splattering like blood. Hours passed. Dawn crept. Gray as grief. His knock came soft. Elijah? Please. Opened. Spent. He stood there. Journal in hand, mine. Open to a sketch of us on that Hampton's deck. Waves framing our peace. You saw me before I did. Don't let me lose that. We talked till noon. Coffee cold. Truths bared. His fear of losing control. My terror of invisibility. No absolution. Just agreement to fight. Together. He called his lawyers that afternoon. Deal rescinded. Marcus exposed in a blistering press release. The fallout rippled. Stock dips. Donor defections. But Aiden stood firm. Voice steady in interviews. Integrity over empire. I watched from the wings. Pride swelling like tide. Winter deepened. Snow blanketing the park in hush. We shoveled the balcony. Breaths fogging. Laughter echoing as snowballs flew. Therapy continued. A weekly ritual unpacking scars. His. From a youth of locked closets. Mine. From loves that faded like Polaroids. You're my North Star, he said one session. Hand in mine. The therapist smiled. Then navigate by it. Christmas Eve. Under a tree weed decorated with ornaments from Brooklyn flea markets. Glass orbs from my grandma's era. A glittery star Theo handcrafted, we exchanged gifts. For him, a custom leather-bound planner. Pages seeded with my doodles. For me, a locket with a tiny photo of us. Courthouse grins eternal. To the real beginning, he toasted. Mulled wine warm. We made love then, not urgent, but unhurried. Bodies mapping familiar coasts. Whispers weaving futures. No rush, just presence. But betrayal's ghost whispered on New Year's Day. A subpoena arriving like frostbite. Marcus, countersuing for defamation. Dredging our contract marriage into court. Headlines screamed, Hale's sham vows exposed. Reporters camped our stoop. Flashes blinding as we emerged for coffee. Aiden's resolve cracked in the elevator. This could ruin us. I cupped his face. Not us. Them. Court dates loomed. A gauntlet of depositions and discovery. Our private pains paraded public. January's hearings were a circus. Wood-paneled courtrooms in lower Manhattan. Lawyers circling like sharks. Marcus took the stand, painting Aiden as duplicitous, me as unwitting pawn. A business arrangement, he sneered. Eyes on me. Pity the poor sap who bought the act. My testimony followed. Voice steady. It started as contract. Yes. But love? That's not scripted. Aiden's turn came last. Unflinching. I married Elijah because he was kind when I was cruel to myself. Marcus? He was convenience. Big difference. The judge ruled in our favor. Defamation dismissed. Countersuit thrown out, but victory tasted ashen. Aiden retreated. App meetings cancelled. Days lost to brooding. I found him on the balcony one blizzard night. Snow veiling the world. Worth it? He asked, voice hollow. I wrapped arms around him. Every scar. Spring hinted early. Crocuses pushing through slush. We volunteered at the Ali Forney Center, serving meals to homeless queer youth. Aiden's idea. Redemption in action. Watching him kneel to tie a kid's shoelace. Patience incarnate. Mended something in me. You're good at this, I said later, over soup kitchen cleanup. He grinned, sheepish. Learning from the best. But climax brewed in May. Marcus's final gambit. A tell-all podcast. Dropping bombshells. Aiden's confessions of using me for optics. Twisted tapes from drunken nights. It aired at midnight. Downloads spiking like fever. Aiden listened alone. Then woke me at 2 a.m. Face ashen. It's lies. Elijah. All of it. But one clip rang true. His voice, slurred from a pre-marriage bar crawl, dismissing our vows as temporary glue. Context missing, but the wound fresh. Dawn brought the storm. I packed again, bag light but heart leaden. I need space, I said, his pleas a blur. Subway to Lila's, city blurring through tears. Days stretched. Radio silence my shield. Then, a package, the journal, filled now with his entries, pages of regret, sketches of me he'd attempted, words raw. I was blind, but your light never dimmed. Come back? I did, not for pity, but possibility. Door opening to his embrace. We wept, cleansing, cathartic. No more ghosts, he vowed. Just us. Summer scorched the asphalt into mirages, but our reconciliation bloomed tentative as rooftop tomatoes. Aiden scaled back the empire, delegating to a COO, reclaiming evenings for us, picnics in Prospect Park, where we'd sprawl on checkered blankets, feeding each other strawberries, juice-staining lips like shared secrets. Remember our first date? He'd muse, though it wasn't one, just a forced dinner for donor photos. I'd laugh. You spilled wine on my lap. Thought you'd bolt. He hadn't. Instead, he dabbed it with his napkin, apology in his eyes. Now, those eyes held steady, mapping my freckles like constellations. The podcast's venom faded, drowned by Aiden's counter, a Medium post, unfiltered, chronicling his journey from closet to commitment. I married Elijah on paper, he wrote, but fell for him in the margins. It went viral, queer media hailing it as the anti-hail takedown, shares rippling from Fire Island to LA. Reporters knocked anew, but this time, we posed together, arms linked at a glad gala, smiles genuine as sunlight. Marcus slunk away, career singed, last citing a bitter tweet storm that Twitter X swiftly ratioed into oblivion. Yet, conflict simmered domestic. Aiden's workaholic ghosts resurfacing in deadline crunches. Nights he'd vanish into the office, emerging hollow-eyed at dawn. Can't unplug, he'd admit, rubbing temples. I counter with boundaries, phone curfews, weekend blackouts drawing from therapy's toolkit. Fights flared, sharp but short, You're choosing code over me. I'm building our future. Then makeup. Apologies sealed with forehead kisses. The cycle a reminder that love's a verb. Conjugated daily. Mid-July. Lila's wedding crashed the calm. A beachside affair in the Rockaways. Her bride a marine biologist with a laugh like waves. We flew kites on the shore pre-ceremony. Aiden's competitive streak turning it to chaos. Mine somersaulting his into the surf. Cheers erupting from guests. Vows exchanged under a driftwood arch. Lila's eyes misty. To the ones who stay, even when it's stormy. Aiden squeezed my hand. Ring glinting, real this time. Proposed in April under cherry blossoms. Simple platinum band engraved from the beginning. Receiving it, I choked. Took you long enough. His reply, worth the wait. Post-honeymoon. Lila gifted us a couple's retreat voucher. Upstate at a wellness farm in the Catskills. All yoga and farm-to-table. We arrived skeptical. Aiden, city slicker averse to mud. Me, artist thriving in urban grit. But mornings dawned with goat yoga, ridiculous. Hissing beasts nuzzling his beard, dissolving us into giggles. Afternoons, forest bathing, barefoot trails, hands clasped, birdsong a soundtrack to silences profound. Evenings by the fire, prompts from a deck. What scares you most? His, losing you to my blindness. Mine, being the quiet one forever. Tears fell, but so did barriers. Our story retold in whispers, healed. Back in the city, harvest brought bounty. The app pivoted, adding features for long-term matching, algorithms learning from user journals, echoing our own scribbles. Aiden invited me to a demo, my sketches inspiring UI, soft lines, warm palettes, a quiet love mode for introverts. Launch party at a loft in Dumbo, Brooklyn Bridge twinkling beyond windows. Toasts to Hale's heart upgrade. I cornered him mid-speech. Proud of you. He pulled me on stage. Impromptu. None of this without the man who taught me to see. Applause thundered, but his gaze, mine alone, ignited deeper. Autumn wove gold into the streets, but betrayal's final echo told in October. A boardroom coup. Disgruntled execs. Marcus allies. Plotting ouster. Citing personal distractions. Leaks hit Wired. Hale's romance sync startup? Aiden called emergency meeting. Emerging ashen. They're voting next week. I met him at a dive bar in the East Village. Neon buzzing like nerves. Over whiskeys. Plans hatched. Counter-strategy. My outsider eye spotting alliances he'd missed. You're my secret weapon, he said, kissing my temple. We rallied lunches with swing votes, data decks laced with vision. Vote day dawned crisp. I paced the penthouse, sketching nervously. His text at noon, we won. Lunch, celebration was quiet. Dim sum in Chinatown, steam rising like relief. Couldn't have without you, he said, chopsticks clinking. I grinned, teamwork, but victory unearthed vulnerability. That night, tangled in bed, he confessed, I keep waiting for the other shoe, the one where you realize I'm not enough. I traced his scar. You've always been more. Thanksgiving redux. This time hosting. Turkey brined in apple cider. Table groaning with sides. Lila's cornbread. Theo's vegan stuffing. Aiden carved. Knife steady. Jokes landing easy. Grace circled. Theo's bandmate. A non-binary violinist with stories of road tours. Lila's wife. Regaling with ocean tales. Laughter flowed. Wine loosening tongues. Aiden sharing his first failed pitch. Met with hoots. To family, I toasted, glass raised. Eyes met around the circle, bonds forged in fire. December danced in with lights, Rockefeller tree aglow, our skates wobbling on the rink, his hands steadying my waist. You're a natural, he lied, as I flailed. Liar, but keep holding on. Holiday cards arrived. Hours of photo from the Rockaways. Windswept, joyful. Inside, renewing vows, one day at a time. Mailman grinned, delivering them. New Year's. We watched from the balcony, champagne bubbling, his arm heavy around me. Resolutions? He asked. More you, I said. Less fear. Winter's grip tightened, but so did ours. A nor'easter blanketed the city. Flights grounded, stranding Aiden's parents, uninvited reconciliation looming. They arrived by train, Texas drawls clashing with taxi horns. Dad hail, stern in Stetson. Mom, pearls clutched like shields. Dinner was a tightrope, small talk over roast, Aiden's hand under table anchoring mine. Then, the pivot, Dad's gruff, heard about the troubles. Proud you fought back. Mom softer. That boy in the papers. Sorry for the mess. Aiden blinked, stunned. Means a lot. Hugs awkward but real. Departure with promises of visits. Progress, he exhaled post-goodbye. Miracles, I teased. Spring equinox brought renewal. My solo exhibit at a NoHo gallery. Canvases of us, abstracted, emotional swirls capturing quiet loves. Opening night buzzed. Aiden in corner, eyes misting at a piece titled Margins. Our hands intertwined, edges frayed but strong. Sold, the gallerist announced. To whom? Anonymous. Later, Aiden's wink revealed. His gift to himself, for the studio wall. But climax crested in June. Pride's rainbow tide. We'd planned low-key, brunch, parade floats. Marcus resurfaced. Not vengeful but broken rehab stint. Apology email to Aiden. I was poison. Forgive? Aiden shared it over coffee. Conflicted. Part of healing? I nodded. Your call, he replied graciously, blocking no more closure, not cage. Parade day dawned electric. We marched with the nonprofit I'd freelanced for, signs reading love in the quiet. Crowd surged, chants rising, Aiden's voice hoarse beside mine. At the Stonewall rally, speakers thundered activists, elders sharing AIDS-era scars. Aiden leaned in, this us it's why, tears mixed with sweat. My kiss fierce, damn right, post-march, exhausted bliss. Nap in the park, then dinner at our falafel spot, origins looping. Full circle, he said, tahini-dipped pita in hand. I smiled, and just beginning, summer solstice. We escaped to Fire Island, queer haven. Dunes whispering freedoms. Biked pine trails. Beaches nude optional, we opted clothed. Laughing. Nights in a borrowed cottage. Stars pricking the sky. One dawn. Waves lapping. He turned. Marry me again? For real? No papers. Heart soared. Yes, always. The engagement's glow carried into July's haze. But New York summer's test resolves, heat waves warping resolve like vinyl. We planned modestly. Small ceremony in the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. Cherry blossoms nodding if weather held. Invites went out handwritten. My script looping names. Lila and wife. Theo's band as DJs. A handful of chosen allies from Aiden's world. No spectacle, he insisted, allergic to fuss. I agreed, craving intimacy over Instagram. Yet, conflict coiled subtle. Aiden's restlessness. Empire's pull tugging him seaward. A Silicon Valley conference beckoned, keynotes, VCs sniffing acquisitions. Go, I urged, though envy nipped. Conquer, he jetted west. Texts punctual, miss your coffee. Nail that mood board. But night for. Silence stretched, calls diverted to voicemail. Worry nod. By dawn. News broke. Aiden, photographed poolside at a Palo Alto hotel. Arm around a venture scout, male, mid-30s, laugh thrown back in sunlight. Tabloid bait. Hale's honeymoon hijinks? Panic surged. I paced the studio. Phone clutched like talisman. Lila arrived. Coffee in tow. Breathe. Context. But screenshots mocked. Cozy. Candid. Caption sly. Aiden landed at JFK that evening. Cab straight to me, face haggard. Flowers wilting in his fist. It's nothing, networking brunch. Old friend from UT. I shoved the phone at him. This doesn't look like brunch. Hurt flared mutual. His. Accused. Mine. Exposed. After everything? You let me doubt again. Voices rose. Balcony doors rattling. I'm not him. Elijah. Not Marcus, not anyone. He slammed out. Footsteps echoing down the hall. Hours bled. City hummed indifferent. I wandered to the High Line. Railside blooms mocking my wilt. Text pinged his at the office. Need space. Lila's. Give him rope. Theo's. Band's jamming? Come blow off steam? I did. Drums thundering in a Williamsburg warehouse. Sweat purging poison. Midnight brought Aiden's knock. Rain-soaked. Eyes red-rimmed. I screwed up, not the photo, but shutting you out. We collapsed on the couch. Confessions cascading. His fear of entrapment. Echoes of Texas cages. My scar from silences past. We're better than reactions, I said. He nodded, head bowed. Teach me. Reconciliation ritual. Weekend in the Hudson Valley. Airbnb cabin amid maples. No tech. Phones silenced. Hikes to waterfalls where we swam. Chilled gasps turning to splashes. Evenings. Stargazing decks. His stories of constellations learned from app coders. Orion's belt reminds me of you. Steady. Guiding. Laughter healed. Plans refined. Vows rewritten. Incorporating our mess. In doubts and dawns. August dog days brought bounty. Exhibit sales funded a scholarship at Pratt. My alma. For queer artists. Ceremony loomed. Nerves electric. Rehearsal dinner at Lila's. Backyard strung with Edison bulbs. Grill smoke curling. Toasts tiered. Theo's ballad. Acoustic guitar strumming our non-song. Lila's roast. From contract to conquest. Mazel on the redo. Aiden's words. Glass raised. Elijah. You loved me into being. Here's to us. Clink. Later. Slow dance in the grass. Crickets chirping approval. Wedding day broke golden. Botanic garden paths petal-strewn. Cherry trees a canopy. I waited at the arbor. Suit crisp. Heart thundering. Guests murmured, 50 souls. Eclectic. Drag aunties. Tech bros gone soft. Family ghosts present in toasts. Aiden appeared. Path's end. Eyes locked. Nervous grin. Boutonniere askew. Vows exchanged. Mine first. I chose you in silence, stayed in storm. Now, I choose loud, forever. His, you saw my shadows, lit them anyway. I vow light, every day. Rings slid, simple gold bands etched quiet and bold. Kiss sealed, cheers erupted, Theo's set kicking in indie anthems, crowd swaying. Reception spilled into the conservatory, tables laden with farm-fresh, heirloom tomatoes, herb-crusted lamb. Speeches sparkled. Lila's, hearts like yours? Rare as a sober brunch. Laughter flowed. Cake cut, lemon chiffon, forks clinking. First dance to Sea of Love. His hand warm at my waist, world fading. Whispers amid twirls. Husband, husband, magic. Honeymoon whisked us to Provincetown. Cape Cod's queer cape, dunes and drag shows. Rented a gingerbread cottage. Bikes to beaches where seals barked offshore. Days lazy, whale watches, spotting breaches like blessings. Nights, bonfires with locals, stories swapped over esmores. One twilight, pier walk. Regrets? He asked, waves lapping. None. You? Zero. Seal with a kiss. Salt-kissed. Return to routine. But transformed. Aiden's app integrated vow trackers. User prompts for anniversaries. Our beta testers. My studio thrived. Commissions from nonprofits. Murals for shelters. Evoking home. Fall foliage framed runs in the park. Leaves crunching underfoot. Breath synced. But betrayal's specter, dormant, stirred in November. Anonymous email to Aiden. Attachments, screenshots of his old browser history. Pre-marriage searches. Gay conversion camps. How to fake straight. Sender unknown. But Marcus's venom inferred. Digging graves? Aiden muttered. Deleting. I hugged him fierce. Past's dirt. We're soil now, growing. Thanksgiving gathering grew. His parents joined. Thawing further. Mom's pecan pie. Dad's tales of oil rigs. Grudging respect for the business. Toasts to kin. Chosen and blood. December's lights twinkled. Our tree a mosaic. Hampton's shells. Wedding petals pressed. Gifts thoughtful. For him, custom watch. Ticks marking our time. For me, a trip booked. Road to New Orleans. Jazz haunts calling. New Year's. Times Square avoided for balcony bash. Friends crammed. Countdown cheers. His kiss at 0 deep. Promising. Resolutions whispered. Deeper roots. Winter waned gentle. Valentine's. He recreated our falafel first date. Ring from under pita. Anniversary band. Diamonds subtle. For the margins, he said. Tears. Perfect. Spring equinox. 2-year mark from contract signing. We revisited the courthouse. Not for papers, but picnic on steps, sandwiches from a truck. Memories toasted. From cold to this, he marveled. Magic, I agreed. But climax loomed summer's edge. Aiden's app faced buyout. Google's offer. 9 figures. Strings corporate. Sell? I asked. Over iced teas in the park. He pondered. Lose soul. Nights debated. Pros cons listed. Security versus vision. Your call, I said. Our life. Decision day. Boardroom tense. He declined. Countering partnership, autonomy intact. Press lauded Hale's stand. Celebration. Rooftop at the Standard. City sprawling. Free, he toasted. Us. Pride again. Evolved, we sponsored a float. My designs rainbow-washed code. March renewed. Chants louder in our lungs. Fall brought harvest. Theo's album launch. Our track. Duet vocal. Lyrics quiet love's anthem. Sold out Bowery Ballroom. Crowd singing back. Thanksgiving. Table fuller. His folks stayed weak. Bonding over museum hops, MoMA moderns. Aiden's dad nodding at Warhols. Queer as folk. Ha! Progress. December deepened joys. Holiday market strolls. Glühwein steaming. His arm anchor. New Year's. 3rd. Balloon drop in the living room. Friends toasting endless beginnings. Yet, in quiet moments, gratitude swelled. Aiden's hand in mine. City humming lullaby. Love, we'd learned, wasn't grand gestures alone, but the quiet holding, through cold contracts to warm dawns. The years folded like well-worn pages, each crease a chapter etched in shared ink. By our 5th anniversary, real, ringed in ritual, we'd traded the penthouse for a brownstone in Fort Greene, Brooklyn. Ivy-clad, backyard garden where tomatoes ripened under my tending. Aiden's farm-to-fork experiments often charring the grill. Mornings started slow. His coffee brewing as I sketched at the kitchen island. Sunlight slanting through leaded glass. Morning, artist, he'd murmur, kiss lingering on my temple. Morning, mogul, routine, yes but sacred, the kind New Yorkers fight traffic and rents to claim. Aiden's app evolved into a constellation. Spin-offs for platonic bonds, elder connections, even a legacy mode archiving stories for posterity. He'd step back further, mentoring startups in the Bronx. His office a converted garage buzzing with young coders, diverse, driven, many queer kids he'd adopted informally. Paying forward, he'd say, but I saw the boy from Texas, mending his own fractures. My art flourished. Solo show at the Brooklyn Museum, murals commissioned for subways, vibrant tales of hidden loves, commuters pausing mid-stride to trace lines. Family wove tighter. Lila's first kid arrived springtime, a squalling bundle we dubbed Tiny Tsunami. Auntie Judy's pulling us into diaper dashes and lullabies. Aiden, surprisingly tender, rocking the babe with a finger hooked in tiny fist. Uncle Aiden's got stories for you. His parents visited biannual. Thawing to full bloom. Dad Hale swapping rodeo yarns for gallery talks. Mom knitting booties. Her bless your hearts now laced with affection. Never thought I'd see him this. Settled. She'd confide, eyeing us over tea. Conflict. Inevitable companion. Visited sporadically. A rough patch when Aiden's mentor, old VC Wolf, poached talent. Lawsuit dragging months. Stress resurfaced. Late nights fraying tempers. You're drifting. I'd accuse. Dinner cold. Trying to hold it together. Retorts flew. But we'd circle back, therapy a touchstone. Walks in the garden where roses bloomed defiant. We're storm-tested, he'd say, pulling me close. Indeed. Betrayals passed like distant thunder, our foundation bedrock. Climax crested unexpectedly. Autumn of year 7. Aiden's diagnosis. Slipped disc from desk hunch. Surgery looming. Panic flickered, mine. Irrational. Visions of wheelchairs and what-ifs. I'll be fine, he scoffed. But eyes betrayed fear. Vulnerability's old foe. Prep week blurred. Hospital tours. My hand in his during MRIs. Cold machines humming menace. Night before. Kitchen vigil. Tea steeping. his head on my lap. If I can't walk, then we dance seated. Laughter choked, but held. Surgery day. Waiting room, a limbo of magazines and worry. Surgeon emerged. Clean. Healing swift. Relief crashed. I found him groggy. Foredripped. Grinning lopsided. Told you. Recovery tested. Physio sessions in Prospect Park. Me spotting his lapse. Cheers for each step. Push harder. I tease. Echoing his boardroom bark. He did. Emerging stronger, literally, figuratively. You carried me, he said. First unassisted stride. Always have. Post-recovery. Gratitude bloomed. Sabbatical planned. Cross-country drive in a vintage Mustang he'd restored. Route 66 echoes. From Brooklyn to Big Sur. Stops whimsical. Grand Canyon sunsets. Picnics in Taos. Motels with neon hearts. One Nevada night. Under Milky Way blaze. This us is the empire. I nodded. Stars reflecting in his eyes. Back east. Life resumed amplified. Theo's wedding. Us best men in tandem suits. Vows we'd scripted half. Lila's kids' baptism. Secular. Splashy park affair. We stood goduncles. Promises light but lasting. 10th anniversary dawned misty. We renewed in the Botanic Garden. Same arbor. Fewer guests. Intimate circle. Vows updated. Through contracts and chaos. Quiet and quake. I choose you. Rings added. Etched tenfold. Reception backyard. String lights. Theo's quartet. Cake our recipe. Pie inspired. Savory twist. Years 12 through 15 blurred benevolent. Aiden's book. Coded hearts. Memoir meets manifesto. Bestseller in queer lit circles. My graphic novel. Margins of Us. Illustrated our arc. Abstract. Icking. Award nominated. Travels punctuated. Tuscany truffles. Tokyo temples. Each stamp a story. Conflict revisited mild. Empty nest pangs as Lila's family grew. Theo toured endless. Just us again, Aiden mused. Wine glass twirling. Best plot twist. We adopted a mutt. Scruffy rescue named Gatsby. Chases in the yard therapy. Climax minor. Market crash dipped app stocks. Layoffs loomed. Aiden fought transparent town halls. Retraining funds. People over profit. Ethos intact. We weathered. Emerging leaner. Loyal. Mid-40s found us reflective. Gray threading temples. Lines laughter carved. Still love this face? He'd joke. Mirror peering. I'd pull him close. More. Humanistic close, year 20. Silvered and sage. We mentored, foster parents to dreams. Hosting queer youth weekends. Stories swapped over suppers. One eve. Garden fire pit. Gatsby snoozing. From cold contract to this warmth. He smiled. Hand in mine. You loved quietly. I learned loud. Best life. Legacy lingered. App's millionth match. Our story anonymized feature. Art donated. Scholarships seeded. Family fractal. Grandnieces tumbling. His folks' golden years visited. Final hook. Twilight walk. Central Park. Full circle. Leaves gold as then. Regrets? I asked. None. You. Infinite gratitude. Kiss soft. City sighing approval. In America's sprawl. From Manhattan's gleam to Brooklyn's grit. We'd forged not perfection, but presence. Love as verb. Quiet as thunder. Contract dissolved in covenant. And in that, humanity's humblest triumph.